Hello, everybody, and welcome back in to the Big Ten Show, Ohio State edition. We are here, as always, myself, Justin Adams, Sonny Verma. I say as always as if we have a bunch of episodes, but I'm from the Nebraska Voice of College Football, Sonny Verma from the Illini Cast. How you doing, Sonny?
Doing wonderful. Justin, how are you?
I'm doing good. And then we got JR, the guest today, the Ohio State expert from the Big Ten Huddle. JR, how you doing today? And do you want to just plug your stuff real quick?
Yeah, for sure. Doing great. Big commitment tonight from a guy I'm sure we'll talk about, Will Howard. So that's really fun. I run a show called the Big Ten Huddle, where normally Justin and Sonny are my guests, but I'm their guest tonight. So feels a little weird, but glad to be here and glad to support you guys. Glad to see you guys are doing this. It's gonna be awesome.
I appreciate you taking the time, man. Like you said, it's always a pleasure to be on the show. So nice to have you here. And you can dive into this a little bit better than we can. So the big news, of course, Will Howard is now going to the Ohio State Buckeyes. So, this changes things drastically in terms of, based on what we saw in the bowl game, a little bit of a question mark, starting quarterback getting injured, and then from there, just the lack of any success offensively. So just what is your instant reaction, just your gut reaction based off the news?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great for competition, right? That's one thing that Ohio State kind of missed a little bit last year. If you remember Ohio State when the year first started, they were supposed to be a quarterback competition going into the season with Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. However, Devon Brown really never got the chance to showcase what he was able to do in games. So, do I think Will Howard is, the best player in the world, first round pick, Caleb Williams next year? No, I don't think. I think similar to people saw in the bowl game, which he was a true freshman, so I think we could give him some grace on how he performed in that game. But if nothing else, I think it breeds competition for the quarterback room, and at the end of the day, whoever's the best guy will come out of camp and be the guy, and I think that's what everybody wants to see.
Yep.
Do you think this is going to be an honest like a camp battle, or do you think Will Howard? I mean, it's hard for me to kind of imagine a guy who started 4 years, picks Ohio State, and is being told that, hey, you're going to be battling for your job. Especially Will Howard, who had an opportunity to go to USC, to be under the tutelage of Lincoln Riley. I think he visited Miami too. I think. Mm-hmm. Do you really think this is going to be like a battle, or do you think this is kind of wrapped up already?
I think it definitely leans toward Howard. I think Howard has the experience, right? Howard has, the age and things like that you want. He does have a very good arm. His arm is a little underrated. I think people need to understand, the type of weapons that you have at Kansas State. I'm not trying to disparage that team at all, but, that's not a team that is known for getting super great skill players. I've not heard of a Kansas State player being, wide receiver or something like that being drafted, in a top round anytime lately. Their running back, I forget his name last year, but he was drafted fairly high for a running back. So he was really good last year, but you just don't have those kind of guys around you to showcase your abilities. And from everything that I've heard from insiders and other people, that was the biggest thing for Will Howard is he feels like he has a first round, second round type of ability where he can make it to the NFL. But he just feels like, he didn't have the supporting cast around him to make that happen. And there's also rumors that, he's kind of feeling some of the stuff with the Big 12 that other people are feeling that, it's not a league that's as good as the Big Ten or the SEC. And when you go and play in a league like the Big Ten or the SEC, scouts see that and they understand that, this is a better league than what the Big 12 is. And so not only does he want to play with better players, but he also wants to play against better players. So I do think that Will Howard ultimately has the edge. But based off how things have gone, I don't see Day allowing somebody to just go into training camp and say you're the starter. That's what he did with Kyle McCord. He said he wanted to open the competition back up with Kyle McCord after the season, and that was one of the reasons why Kyle McCord left was he didn't think the position battle should be opened back up. He thought he was the starter, and there was no reason to do that. But obviously that's not what Ryan Day thought. So if Ryan Day is not willing to have his starting quarterback come back and be the starter in training camp, I tend to believe that he's also going to allow for there to be competition in training camp with a transfer quarterback as well.
Yeah, and just looking at Will Howard in the transfer portal rankings, for what it's worth, slightly ahead of Kyle McCord based on just their transfer rankings. I think Kyle McCord was a 91 on 24/7, 92 for Kyle McCord. So, but what do you think? Just based on watching the offense for the entirety of the season, what are some of the things that the offense really struggled with, and more importantly, Kyle McCord really struggled with in this offense that maybe Will Howard be able to kind of mitigate?
Yeah, escapability, mobility, things like that. I don't think it was a secret that Ohio State's offensive line was not up to par for what they normally have. Now, you had a lot of new starters on there, so that has to be understood. Ohio State fans won't understand that if you tell them, because we just think that everybody's the best and you have to be the best. But we have to understand that. And so I do think that he has a better offensive line coming back. And one thing that was a big discussion point for fans last year was, when Devon Brown was in the game, he ran more read option and he was able to tuck the ball and run. I mean, we even saw him for 2 or 3 games as kind of like the red zone quarterback, where he would run the ball to try to help out in some of those short yard situations, and he did a fantastic job with it. And so I think Ryan Day sees the appeal here of having a mobile quarterback, and not just one mobile quarterback, but having multiple guys in the room. And I think that was another big thing he saw in the bowl game, which was, look, if my starter goes down, if the next guy is not ready, we're cooked. And so that was another big thing with him, which was, we need to make sure we have enough guys in this room that if Will Howard does go down, Devin Brown is there, Lincoln Keenholz is there, and they're ready to go.
For sure.
I guess the next question is Devin Brown going to be there? Is Lincoln Keenholz going to be there? I know you guys just recruited a 5-star with an all Big Ten name, Air Noland. I believe that's his name. Obviously, the transfer portal has closed, at least this particular window, but it's going to open back up at the conclusion of spring practices. From what you've heard, do you think Devin Brown kind of sticks around and considers himself the heir apparent, or do you think he might be, exploring other opportunities at this point?
I think initial reaction is Devin Brown sticks around. I definitely see a possibility of him moving on. If anybody else saw it, Devin Brown, I don't know, about a couple weeks before the bowl game, maybe about a month, when Kyle McCord transferred, he came out and he posted a picture of some boats on fire. And not everybody knew what that meant, but apparently it was a depiction of some war general. I don't know all the history, but it's a depiction of some war general who he got to an island to fight. And while his soldiers were asleep, he burned the boats, which basically saying there's no turning back. We're going to fight here, and we're going to win. And so I feel like that's kind of like Devin Brown's mentality, is that he has dreamed to play at Ohio State. He has dreamed to be taught under Ryan Day, from what he said. And so Devin Brown will have a year of eligibility after Will Howard moves on. Lincoln Keenholz will have a year of eligibility after Devin Brown moves on. So I don't think it's out of the question for Devin Brown to come back, and judging by his mentality, I think it's likely. But you guys know as well as I do, in the transfer portal area, you can never count anybody out for going into the portal or anything like that.
Are we sure that picture wasn't a shot at PJ Fleck?
Maybe. And I'm okay with that too.
The state of the Minnesota quarterback situation. Maybe he was just trying to lean a little bit.
We got some flack for that on our rankings. Did you see that, Justin?
Oh yeah, dude. That's fine by me, dude. That went a little off the rails with mine. Speaking of, though, I was going to go into that. Where would you slot, him in on the rankings that we, did yesterday? Who would you put him in behind? If you can remember your rankings, I can pull them up here too.
Yeah, if you want to pull them up, you can. I know my top 3 were I think it was Dylan Gabriel, Dante Moore, and
For the record,
Will
for
Rogers.
those who didn't watch the Big Ten Huddle, what they're referencing was Justin was on JR's show, the Big Ten Huddle, and they ranked the top 10, I believe, right? Transfer quarterbacks.
Correct.
Yeah, it's all 10. There's only 10.
Just to give a little backdrop to those who are seeing this.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
go watch the episode.
yeah, exactly. And we can link that. Looking at this, where about would you slot him in? And for reference, JR's is the middle list.
Yeah, so I would put Will Howard right above Dante Moore. And the reason that I would do that is I think Dylan Gabriel is more proven at a school that has similar stuff like that, right? Oklahoma is going to the SEC. Oregon is going to the Big Ten. So those are similar enough programs that I keep Dylan Gabriel ahead of him. But Will Howard is making a jump up to, I believe, a better program with better skill and a more difficult conference. So I would say that Dylan Gabriel is the better ad, but at the same time, I would say he's also better than Dante Moore because he's going to be able to play right away. Dante Moore is a very, very nice depth piece, but I still think Will Howard is there, and no shot at Will Rogers. Will Rogers is a great ad too, but I just think Will Howard is going to be more impactful for the Buckeyes than perhaps Will Howard will be for Washington.
For sure. And Sonny, just what is your instant reaction, just as a Big Ten fan and a fellow team in the Big Ten fan, Illinois being your squad? So, what's your reaction on this?
We're all kind of waiting for that Ohio State quarterback, the announcement to drop. If I'm going to be completely honest, as a neutral observer, I don't know how much of an upgrade Howard is over McCord, especially because you could have had a McCord who played pretty well last year. We'll see what Howard does this upcoming season. If the guarantee was a big deal for Day, that McCord was not able to accept anything but a guarantee, whereas Howard is willing to go in and battle for his position, I can understand. Howard obviously has had a lot of success already in college football. I feel like if we went back a month when the transfer portal opened and we basically polled every Ohio State fan on which quarterbacks they wanted, I don't necessarily know if Will Howard would have been number one or number two. And, I'm glad they got their guy. As some of you know, like my wife is a Buckeye, so, it's a team I do passively watch. But, I think it's a good, not necessarily outstanding pickup by Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think it's important in the matter of, that QB room was definitely going to be significantly worse next year as it sat in the situation they were in. So even more so just with looking at Ryan Day. And, again, JR is talking, he was mentioning it's more of the minority that is kind of calling for Ryan Day's head. But still, I think this is something that can kind of change that opinion with a lot of the fan base and maybe get them a little bit more in the patience, is a virtue type of thing where, maybe they exercise a little more patience on Ryan Day, give him a little bit more leeway since they were able to go out, kind of land a impactful, playmaker and a solid quarterback off of that, sorry, as I've heard it referenced by many Ohio State fans, offensive performance. So, based on that, do you think there's any impact to that? And do you think this kind of helps Ryan Day's, reputation right now within the fan base?
Yeah, I definitely think the majority of Ohio State fans still want to keep Ryan Day, but they are growing tired of the continual, we're going to fix it this offseason type of stuff, and they're definitely growing tired of losing to Michigan. So, whether it's fair or not, and I know a lot of people will say Ohio State fans are unfair, terrible people, whatever you can call us, I don't care. But I definitely think that this is a prove-it year for Day. Can he assemble a staff together? A big thing with the fan base is for him to give up play calling, so that way he can be kind of that CEO coach. A coach who calls plays has never won a playoff game. In Ohio State, Ryan Day won one. I apologize. Ryan Day is the only coach to ever win a playoff game while calling plays as a head coach. And then he got smoked by Bama the very next game. So Ohio State fans are growing tired of the play calling of Ryan Day. Not necessarily because I think he's a bad play caller, but I think it's because people want him to really engage the entire team. Not be this pseudo offensive coordinator type of guy, but to really, really run the entire team in that way. So he definitely needs to beat Michigan this year. If he loses to Michigan, I'm confident that Ryan Day will either be on the hottest seat possible or be gone, one of the two. And he needs to win at least 10 games. I purely believe that if he wins 10 games and a Michigan win is in there, he'll be fine next year. However, if he wins 11 games and the only loss is to Michigan, I know people call us crazy, but I think he's gone.
If this Will Howard accusation works out for him, do you think Ohio State fans are the type of fans who will constantly be looking forward to just grabbing a veteran from the transfer portal? I have a very good friend who's a Notre Dame fan who their fan base is kind of getting a little restless in the sense where they seem to keep going after 1-year hires, hired guns. Obviously, Ohio State's got a great track record of developing quarterbacks. And, as I mentioned, Air Noland was a 5-star. I believe Devin Brown was a 4-star.
Fringe 5-star.
He's right on the
Fringe
border.
5-star, yeah. So, do you think with the way college football is moving forward that Ohio State fans who, let's be honest, no one exactly is going to say is the most patient bunch in the country, do you think that they can still kind of be the type of fan base that's willing to wait and develop a quarterback? Or are we now at the point now with, a bunch of other juggernauts entering the conference that they're going to want, someone who can step in right away with as least amount of trouble as possible and throw some touchdowns?
Yeah, I think, the perception of the Ohio State fan base this offseason has definitely not been good because of Kyle McCord, right? Everybody's seen, the worst of the worst things said about him, which I'm confident that every single fan base has the worst of the worst, and oftentimes the negative fans are the ones who are amplified the most, right? So I definitely think that people kind of have that perception, but what people don't see is that when a guy comes in and he grinds for 4 years and he plays hard and he really excels, if that guy beats Michigan, you don't even have to win a national championship. Obviously, that's icing on the cake. But if you come in and you spend your career at Ohio State and you grind and you beat Michigan, you are beloved for literally the rest of time. A guy like Cardale Jones comes to mind for me. Third string quarterback, people knew about him. Ohio State fans knew about him, but nobody really was in love with him or anything like that. He comes in, he finishes off the game to beat Michigan, and obviously, the rest is history. They win the national championship, stuff like that. But he's in charge of one of the NIL foundations for Ohio State. If you come into Ohio State and you give it your all and you perform, you are beloved by the Ohio State fans. And that comes with many, many future opportunities, even if you don't get to the NFL someday. So for somebody like Devin Brown, if he sticks around, he's going to be beloved by the Ohio State fans if he finally gets that starting job and is able to make that happen. So I don't think that Ryan Day is the type, and I don't think Ohio State is the type of fans who want to see transfer after transfer come into the quarterback room. I don't think that they want to see that, nor do I want to see that. And I think that a lot of people believe that, Ryan Day, he's this QB guru. He should be the guy who can bring in a 5-star QB and develop him and make those kind of things happen. You shouldn't have to, be a Marcus Freeman who has no idea what he's doing with quarterbacks, or, Brent Venables who has no idea what he's doing with quarterback. You shouldn't have to be one of those guys. And I think Ohio State fans take pride in that. So I don't think transfer quarterbacks are going to be the answer every year, but in certain circumstances like this, with your starting quarterback leaving, I can see Ohio State fans being okay with it.
The thing about it is too, and I agree with you. Right now in this transfer portal age, it's kind of one of those things where it's important to have balance, right? And so again, I think this was one of those moves that was necessary just based on the state of the QB room right now. But it's necessary in the sense that, it gives Ryan Day kind of another year with a good quarterback that he knows is experienced to lead the charge. But it also gives him a little bit more time to develop, Devin Brown and guys like that, but also get these recruits in there. And it's one, the good and the bad about the transfer portal is the good is you can bring in a guy for 1 year and you can recruit these kids and then hope, that they stick around. Again, you see the situation in Georgia where they have too many developing quarterbacks and they've lost, one after the other because they have to sit behind so-and-so for a year. So I agree with your point there. I think it's just going to be a balance of both. And I think Ohio State is one of those schools, they can land the top transfers, they can land the top recruits. So they have their pick of the litter, if you will, based on just what they want and their need. And in this situation, Will Howard fit that need perfectly. So anything else out of the Ohio State, transfer portal or just any roster stuff coming up on National Signing Day that you know of that you can update people on?
I would just say in the spring transfer portal window, watch out for Ohio State to possibly go after some O linemen. There are some weird SEC rules out there that Ohio State has capitalized on the past 2 years with the spring transfer portal window. I don't know the rules exactly. If somebody researches them, I'm sure they can find them out. But there's something about interconference transfers with the SEC in the spring window that makes it that either the players are not allowed to transfer in the conference or it makes it very, very difficult for them. So a lot of people are kind of complaining that Ohio State hasn't gotten any transfers right now. Well, I guess they got two. They got the Ohio kid and Will Howard. However, I think Ohio State is going to go after some more offensive linemen in the spring window because that is when some SEC guys can leave, and Ohio State is one of the best schools they can go to since the SEC is not open. And I would also tell people to not be surprised if Ohio State makes some changes with the coaching staff. I've been told that Ryan Day is hiring an offensive coordinator sometime next week. I don't know exactly when that is, but I've heard that he is going hard after some big name guys to come in and be the quarterback coach and to be the offensive coordinator, who will then call plays for Ohio State. I don't know if that's wishful thinking. I tend to believe the person that I heard it from. He told me weeks ago that Will Howard was possibly going to come to Ohio State. So obviously he knows a thing or two about that. But I think an offensive coordinator for Ohio State could be coming here soon, and will most likely be saying goodbye to our quarterback coach.
Yeah, and just to double down on your point about the offensive coordinator, head coach not having success, Scott Frost, he was one of those coach that he had to call the plays, and to your point, it just didn't work. The team was undisciplined, and it's one of those things where if he's able to focus on the team, you could see a lot of improvement. That small difference, people don't understand just how much of a load that puts on him. So,
well, look at a guy like Sark, right? I mean.
Yep.
It was obvious that Sark did not have his team as ready as they probably should have been for Washington. I felt like Texas was still the better team, but Washington, they were more prepared, and they made things happen, and they got the win. So play calling head coaches is very, very difficult to deal with.
Absolutely.
And last time that Ryan Day really went, coordinator hunting, he landed on Jim Knowles, and Jim Knowles has completely revamped that defense to become one of the best in the nation. So, he's seen that it's worked on one side of the football. It kind of makes sense that he wants to fix the offensive side too. We talked about possible incoming transfers. Obviously, Ohio State's lost a lot of wide receivers in this transfer portal, some within the conference. Now, it goes without saying that Ohio State has, five-star after five-star when it comes to every recruiting season to begin with. But do you feel like there's going to be any issue of depth next year when it comes to the wide receiver spot, or are you guys just so loaded? I know Carnell Tate's back. A couple of the other guys are coming back. That it's not really a concern for you.
I would say it's not much of a concern, and as arrogant as that sounds, I'm not trying to be an arrogant jerk or anything, but
it's not super arrogant. I just let you know it's.
Obviously, if Emeka Ibuka leaves, I think there is concern about the experience there. Indications are showing that he is probably going to come back. We'll see. We never know, what's going to happen. But apparently, the Ohio State NIL has been working hard to bring him back. So I think if Emeka Ibuka comes back, I feel better about it. He didn't have the best season because of an injury he sustained early on in the year. But between him, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Jeremiah Smith, Mylan Graham was a pretty quiet 5-star receiver that Ohio State got. Jaden Ballard is another guy who's been there for a long time, and he's kind of been like this steady player. And there's a couple other guys, I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but there's still a good amount of guys in that room that have a lot of talent. So I'm not so much concerned about their talent. I'm more concerned every year with them not getting a whole lot of snaps, because Brian Hartline doesn't like to have much of a rotation. He kind of just likes to play the same 3 or 4 guys, and that kind of hinders the younger wide receivers a little bit from getting snaps and being comfortable. So I would say that's more of my concern, is just getting these guys experience and acclimating them to college football, not so much their skill set.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you joining us here, JR. Appreciate you taking the time to come on here and give us your thoughts and stuff like that. So is there anything for the people before we go, and then anything, what's happening on your channel, anything you want to plug on there?
Nothing else. Ohio State. That's all I got for them. Big Ten Huddle. Just go check it out. It's on YouTube. We have a football episode every Tuesday. Justin will be there for the month of January, so we're excited to have Justin on for that. And we're doing a lot of basketball right now. So our basketball is actually doing really well. A lot of Illinois fans and Purdue fans listening to us. And Sonny's helping us out with that. But yeah, we're covering basketball and football. It's a lot of fun. A lot of news and notes with football right now, and a lot of game previews and game recaps with basketball. So come check it out.
Awesome. And just here at the Big Ten show, this is our first episode. So this is going to be the first one that everybody sees. So going forward, we will have everything Big Ten related for you. Based on any of the teams, we'll have pop-up shows here and there, and then we'll have guests from each and every team. And then we also have some national championship preview stuff coming. So a lot of exciting stuff coming. Sonny, anything from you before we go?
No, JR, thanks again for coming on. And as he said, definitely check out his channel. JR is a very hardworking guy. He's throwing out shows constantly every week. And as for us, you can find me at Illini Cast. But if you're interested in the Illinois side of things, but definitely stay tuned to the Big Ten show. We've got a lot of content coming up, a lot of scheduled videos coming up before the championship game on Monday. And, we'll be working hard for you.
Yep. And for the Husker fans, you can find me over at Nebraska Football at the Voice of College Football. We're live there every Tuesday, and then posting content there as well on Nebraska-specific stuff. My apologies. I can't speak, apparently. And then we will have Nebraska-specific stuff on both channels. So you can find the content here and there. It'll be a little bit different, so check out both. But that'll do it here for us on the Big Ten show. If you want to see more of our stuff, just subscribe if you like the channel. And we'll try to keep bringing you entertaining stuff and stuff you want to hear. So that'll do it for us.